On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, remember how AMC told Lionsgate to take down that Saw X thing? Well, they did, but they followed up by sending them a cease and desist letter anyway. Also, Disney's got a few animated films coming out, including that new one, Wish, but should they be considering just dropping them directly on Disney+? Also, finally, the WGA and the studios are going to actually set a meeting to sit down and talk to each other again. Could this lead to some progress? We can only hope. Also, there are rumors going around that Karl Urban may be appearing in Deadpool 3, possibly as a Deadpool variant. And remember that Star Wars Lando show that Donald Glover's working on? Well, now they're saying it's actually going to be developed as a feature-length movie. That and a whole bunch more of the John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world. Movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good things. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or end up being completely different than ours. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora. That's a part of a discussion that happened before camera started rolling. Jonathan Voico is there.
Hey.
Chris Carr is here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making the show part of your day. Here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by going over those topics I just listed off. And then in the last part of the show, we're going to take topics and questions from our YouTube channel members. We have a great group of supporters here on the channel known as our YouTube channel members. You should become one as well. And every day we ask them to submit some topics, and we're going to get through as many as we can before the end of the show. Also, want to remind you guys, if you are checking this out in video format on our YouTube channel, we do this every day as a podcast called the John Campea Show Podcast. You can go and find the audio-only version, as well as our open mic shows on our podcast feed. Simply go on to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice, and just search for the John Campea Show. Subscribe to it, so it'll be there the next time you need an audio-only version. Okay, guys, that all down. Let's jump into this, shall we? For those of you who saw the show yesterday, you remember we talked about this. Lionsgate put out this brilliant spot for their upcoming movie Saw X. It was a play on the Nicole Kidman AMC "We Come to This Place" spot, right? And it was brilliant. So brilliant that when I saw it, I said on this show that I have not even been interested in Saw X, and now I want to see Saw X. It was brilliant. It was fantastic. And by the way, it in no way made fun of the AMC spot. It in no way disparaged AMC or their spot. It was, if anything, an acknowledgement of how popular the spot is. And they played on it to do this fun little promo that everyone in the world loved. So obviously, AMC CEO Adam Aron decided to call Lionsgate all angry and demand that they pull it down. And since AMC is one of their exhibition partners, from what I gather, from what I can tell, Lionsgate acquiesced and they pulled down the spot off of all their social media and YouTube channels and things like that. Now, you can still find it online because a lot of other websites already got their hands on it and they're running with it. And it's out there, and I'm glad it is because it's great. Well, as you guys know, I used to work with AMC for a number of years. I still know a number of people there. And I got a follow-up message sent to me saying, yeah, after we asked them to pull it down and they pulled it down, apparently followed that up by sending them a cease and desist letter. They actually sent AMC sent a cease and desist letter. Now, again, let me emphasize something here. This is confounding to me because you would think, as partners in the movie business, you would think that AMC theaters would want a great piece of marketing for a movie that's coming out that'll be playing in their theaters, that they would want something that fun and popular that everybody's eating up and loving out there. And I could understand AMC being upset if, like Jigsaw was saying, AMC sucks, but come see our movie anyway. Like if they were anyway being disparaging towards AMC, but it's not. It wasn't making fun of AMC. It wasn't doing any of that sort of thing. It was just a fun spot playing off of a very popular, in my opinion, idiotic, but a very, very popular thing that AMC's done with the Nicole Kidman spot. Right? It was fantastic. Saturday Night Live did it. They never sent them a cease and desist. Anyway, again, so AMC has now stepped it up. And even after Lionsgate apparently pulled it all down, AMC still followed through and sent out a cease and desist letter. Now, there are some people who probably don't know and are asking themselves, what exactly is a cease and desist letter? So as you know, I got a little bit of a background in law. So I thought we would go over that a little bit. Okay, so what is a cease and desist? Okay, so a cease and desist is a letter, it's a legal document that is sent to an individual or business to stop alleged illegal activity. The letter may warn that if the recipient does not discontinue specific conduct or take certain actions by deadlines set in the letter, that party may be sued. So basically what it is, let's say, I don't know, your neighbor keeps having a barbecue and dumping the ashes from the barbecue onto your lawn. They shouldn't be doing that. And you can draft up a cease and desist letter.
Ray, have you been doing that to your neighbors when
An
you
oddly
barbecue?
specific scenario you just painted there, Campea.
Kinda odd how Ray's
Almost
laughing.
as if there might be some experience there. So you can send a cease and desist basically saying, look, this is heads up. This is warning. Like, you need to stop doing this or I'm going to sue you, or I'm going to, or some kind of repercussions, right? Now, there is a little bit of misunderstanding about cease and desist, in that cease and desists are not enforceable. Like, they don't mean anything. So, like, I get this question a lot from people. Is it enforceable? Like, do you have to pay attention? Let's go to the classroom shot. If you, like, do you have to pay attention to it? Do you have to respond to it? The answer is no. You don't even have to pay any attention to a cease and desist if you don't want to. There is no legal requirement to respond to a cease and desist letter, and they carry no power of authority in and of themselves. Now, let me put a little caveat to that. Unless you get a cease and desist from government, then that would be referred to as a cease and desist order. That's a little bit different, but a normal cease and desist letter, and I'll give you an example. I got a cease and desist a few years ago from a studio, sent me a cease and desist, and I chose to respond. By the way, it's a good idea. You don't have to legally respond, but it's a good idea to respond to it one or the other. Maybe if the situation's serious enough, you should get some legal counsel, all that kind of stuff. Again, I am not giving legal advice here. I'm an entertainment pundit. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm just saying that I had a cease and desist sent to me once by a studio, and I chose to politely respond. In gentler, more poetic language, go fuck yourself. It's basically like they were asking me to do something they had no right to ask me to do. So I just politely responded, hey, appreciate you giving me the heads up. And then, however, as you are aware, according to the law and blah, 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 and you have no right to ask me to do this. So, and that was the end of it. But I mean, again, sometimes it can be more serious. This is a situation, though, that as far as I can tell, and just to be specific here, AMC had no legal basis to ask Lionsgate to take that spot down. There was no copyright infringement as far as I could tell, and anything that remotely looked like copyright infringement clearly fell under parody. This was clearly fell under parody. So my guess is if Lionsgate wanted to fight this and say to AMC, no, there's really nothing AMC could have done about it. Which would raise the question, well, then why did Lionsgate pull the spot down? Again, it's probably because, look, this is an exhibition. This is a major exhibition partner. They are the biggest movie theater chain in the world. Is it really worth having a fight with them over this fun little spot we made? Probably not worth the fight. And I'm only guessing that's what their thought process was, and sort of relinquished that. But the very fact that they escalated it over something that is actually good for them, AMC, that they actually escalated it to a cease and desist is kind of nonsense. Anyway, Chris, we've been following this. I mean, I think we both loved the spot. We thought the spot was really fun, even though you're not a Saw or a horror person.
Saw with all my life.
At all. But didn't you find little Jigsaw adorable?
I mean,
Didn't
honestly,
it make you want to have a Jigsaw of your own in the dark corner of your living room, always looking at you across the room?
Never. Why?
No? Okay, I take that
Why
back.
would you put that in my brain of it living with me? No. But I did like this spot. I think it was really cute and clever. And like we talked about yesterday, too, it just seems so excessive. One, because parody is covered by First Amendment rights. And two, this makes you tie in seeing Saw at an AMC. Even though it's not explicitly saying, hey, this is AMC Theaters, it's parody. So you go, oh yeah, it'd be really fun for me to go to MacGuffin's, go see Saw X, and go have this fun time at AMC theaters. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. This just seems very silly and excessive.
You know what I could have understood more? To your point, because you raised a great point, I could have understood more maybe if Regal got in touch with Lionsgate and said, hey, we're showing your movie in our theaters. Like, you're basically telling everybody the place to see your movie is in AMC theaters. So I could maybe see Regal or Cinemark or Landmark getting a little bit upset by it. I can't understand why AMC would get upset about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's because they spent $28 million on that ad. They don't want anyone copying it. Or
Wait a minute. Did they spend 28?
Yeah.
No.
Remember when? Yeah, the whole Nicole Kidman ad.
No.
Let me
Was
look.
it-
They did not
Was
spend
it $27
million
million
on
Kidman?
that
Let me.
commercial.
But go on.
They did not spend $28 million on a commercial. There's no way in hell they spent $28 million.
$25 million on the ad campaign.
All right, there you go.
Okay, on the campaign.
Yeah, that campaign.
Not on the spot.
No,
itself.
but it's a part of the
So
Nicole.
like buying TV.
Right.
Okay, that I get. That I completely understand.
See, I was close.
Yeah, it's just like they did not spend $28 million on making that commercial. This is strange situation. Anyway, we'll keep our eyes. By the way, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who said this. You know, in that AMC spot, one of the big movies highlighted as Nicole Kidman's watching the screen is La La Land.
Yeah.
Is that not a Lionsgate? I think Lionsgate owns that, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. And so a friend of mine said, Lionsgate just said, okay, that's cool. We insist that you take the La La Land footage out of your out of that spot.
It is
How's
Lionsgate.
that? It was Lionsgate. Yeah, so that Lionsgate should totally go to AMC. So you know what? Send them a cease and desist letter. Take our La La Land spot out
They
of your...
need to change all those movies, to be quite frank.
Getting a little
They
old,
need
right?
to
They're a
get
little
rid
old.
of the ad, period.
Yeah, I mean,
Now.
it makes
What
me
if-
so mad when I see it in those old films. She's still watching.
We're just
old
getting
films.
hasty
Still
here.
watching Creed
I
1.
just want it to be Nicole Kidman watching Nicole Kidman now.
Oh, that'd be great. Her own movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
Just
right,
her watching
guys.
Practical Magic.
Yeah.
With that all down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Disney Animation has had a bit of a rocky road lately, whether it's Disney Animation proper or their other animation company, Pixar. You know, they've had some great films in recent years, but some very mixed box office success or lack thereof. And, you know, it can make some people wonder about upcoming animation they have, like Wish, which they previewed for us at CinemaCon back in April. And wondering, you know, maybe they should just forego the theaters and put it directly on Disney+. And that happens to be the topic of today's Mint Mobile Hotline Question of the Day. Listen, guys, if you got a question for our show and would like to hear your voice on it, go ahead and call our Mint Mobile hotline anytime, 24 hours a day at 951-268-4259. Every day we pick one or two questions out, and today's again, should Disney maybe just put their animation on Disney+? Check it out.
Hey, John, I was wondering, with the upcoming release of Disney's Wish, do you think we should just release it on Disney Plus instead of releasing it in theaters? During COVID, they released it on Disney Plus, and it worked out for them. And especially with Strange World and Lightyear flopping, I think they should release it on Disney Plus. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
All right, thanks a lot for calling that out. There are a couple things I want to address there. You mentioned in the call that they released a couple other things straight to Disney Plus and it worked out. No, it didn't. It didn't work out at all. In any way was that a positive net for Disney, but under any stretch of the imagination did that work out? It didn't work out. There's that. As a matter of fact, their propensity to start dropping things during the Chapek era directly onto Disney Plus had a direct negative effect on the movies they started releasing in theaters. Because, and we talked about this on the show a couple of months ago about how, you know, it just became the habit. Oh, these Pixar, Disney animated movies, they're not theatrical events anymore. They're home viewing. They're home TV now. Because they put movies like Soul and Luca and Turning Red, and they put these movies that should have been big theatrical experiences, drop them on Disney Plus. So when they started putting movies in theaters, people were kind of like, well, these movies aren't theatrical experiences anymore. And it hurt them. What also hurt was that Lightyear wasn't very good. It started great. The first third of the movie that they showed us at CinemaCon, now we know why that's the part of the movie they showed us at CinemaCon. The first third of that movie is great, and then it really falls off after that. Strange World was a strange movie. I don't know why they ever greenlit or made in the first place, to be honest with you. And it's taken a little while until we finally got Elemental, a movie that had a very, very weak opening weekend, but as word of mouth got out there, just kept staying power and staying power and staying power, got into the high 400 millions and stuff like that, finally starting to come back. The thing is, you could start continuing this habit of just putting these movies straight to Disney Plus. You're killing your theatrical future. You're killing your theatrical future. But on top of that, here's the real paradigm. And this is, again, is something we've gone over a lot with streaming. They make no money if they put it on streaming. Because nobody signed up for Disney Plus so they could watch Luca. People who already had Disney Plus and were already paying their monthly subscription, a lot of them tuned in to watch it. Sure. You know how much money Disney got for every one person that watched Luca on Disney Plus? Nothing. Nothing. So let's say that Wish comes out and they spend let's go with a conservative $60 million advertising campaign. Okay. As long as they make $600 or a $60 million marketing campaign, as long as that movie makes $61 million, it was to their advantage to put it out in theaters, because they may lose money, but they'll lose a lot less money than if they just dumped it on Disney Plus. So no, Wish should not go straight to Disney Plus, because if they do, then they're taking all that money that they spent making Wish, lighting up a nice cozy fire over here, and then going, and dropping it on the fire to keep the room nice and warm. Then it's all gone. All that money's wasted. All that money's gone. So I think it does behoove them to make it theatrical. For number one, they're going to make a lot more. Even if the movie loses money, it's going to lose a lot less money by going theatrical first and then putting it on Disney Plus. But number two is you're doing damage to the entire image of your movies if you let the image continue to be perceived as these are for home movies. These aren't theatrical events, and they got to break that trend. Anyway, Chris, we've talked a lot about the state of animation, stuff like that. You and I both love animated movies. There may be situations and certain projects and certain movies that could be made specifically for streaming or whatever. It's not a one size fit all. I don't want to come across as I'm saying, there's only one correct answer for any animated movie.
Yeah.
But for something like this, a movie like Wish that we saw a preview for, do you think there could be some wisdom in maybe just putting it directly to Disney Plus? Should it go direct, be theatrical first? How do you see it?
I truly view the straight to streaming model as I have no faith in this project.
Yeah, I agree.
That is, and I think that's what we've all just been conditioned to think. Last night when I was going to see Haunting of Venice, we're watching the movie trailers. Five Nights at Freddy's comes on, and Logan leans over and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this one." I went, "Oh yeah, it's day and date though." And he goes, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
It's just how we view these movies. So I think it's a vote of no confidence when you do that. Also, Wish right now lines up with all of the Disney 100-year celebration stuff.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
They are going to really want to push having an animated film, which is really the foundation of Disney, in theaters and make a spectacle of it. Now, is it problematic that there aren't actors who can, promote this right now and everything? Absolutely. But I'm sure Disney can put together a lovely promo without any voicing.
Yeah.
That just showcases the film itself. So I think it's in their best interest to put it in theaters. And, so many of those animated films you mentioned too would have done great. A Turning Red would have thrived in theaters.
Oh, absolutely it would have.
Luca, I think, actually could have found its footing. I love Luca, especially if you do like the Alamo Drafthouse approach and you do the eat along and everything. It's great. So I really think that they need to let this movie have its opportunity in theaters, because otherwise, like you were saying, it's not going to make any money, period. It's really not going to draw in any other subscribers. You got to have that theatrical release.
All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? As we bring up every day, everybody is keenly aware there are strikes going on that is pretty much shut down the movie business and the entertainment business as a whole. Two separate strikes, the Actors Guild, the Writers Guild. The writers have been on strike significantly longer. They are now well over 4 months. As I think it was last week, we passed the 130-day mark. It's gone on significantly longer than the last writer strike. When was the last writer strike? 2007?
2007.
2007. And that one, everybody still has the war scars from the 2007 writer's strike.
It was
and
only 3 months.
What's that?
It was only 3 months.
This was already well more than a month longer than that one was. And up until yesterday, really, honestly, no end in sight. There have been a few times here and there where we felt some optimism, but both sides just seem to be digging in a little bit more and a little bit more. Well, maybe a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Now, you guys remember that the AMPTP did something that the Writers Guild really didn't like, but they made public what their offer was to the writers. A little bit earlier, the writers had made public to the world, letting the world know, hey, look, these are the things we're asking from the AMPTP. And we believe that these are not completely unreasonable things. The AMPTP kind of said, well, this is what we're offering to write. Now, there's some conflicting he said, she said going on, because the AMPTP is saying, well, that offer we made them, they've never gotten back to us. But the Writers Guild is saying, actually, we did respond, and we're waiting on your response to our response. So there's whatever. Look, bottom line is, grown-ups, things never get settled like that. You got to actually get in the room and talk to each other. Well, according to Report and Variety now, maybe a little bit of promise. This comes to us from Variety, who writes this: talks between the Writers Guild of America and the major studios are set to resume next week as the sides seek to end the 4-month-old writer strike. The WGA asked the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, that's the studios, on Wednesday for a meeting, the Studio Alliance said in a statement. On Wednesday, September 13th, the WGA reached out to the AMPTP and asked for a meeting to move negotiations forward. The AMPTP said, "We have agreed and are working on a scheduled meeting next week. Every member company of the AMPTP is committed and eager to reach a fair deal and working together with the WGA to end the strikes." Now, the WGA also put out a little statement that says the WGA and AMPTP are in the process of scheduling a time to get back in the room, the union told members in an email. The two sides were at least negotiated on August 18th anyway. The bottom line here is this: they're going to sit down and talk to each other. And that doesn't mean they're going to come to a settlement. But a settlement can't happen until they sit down and talk to each other. The one thing, Chris, and maybe this is me just desperately trying to be optimistic, the one thing that I look at this and makes me feel a little bit hopeful is even the language in the statements seem civil. Like saying, hey, I like hearing number one, I love hearing that the WGA reached out and said, guys, we need to sit down and meet. I love seeing the WGA take that initiative. I love seeing them wanting to try to get things going. I also really liked hearing the AMPTP saying, you know what? The WGA reached out to us because they want to get things moving. It's like, great. Everybody sounds, I know, John, that just sounds like the way normal people talk. I know, but when you consider the vitriol that's been going around in this strike, it's kind of nice just hearing, saying, you know what? We've agreed to sit down and talk. We all want to get this thing done. I'm like, okay. And again, that's me grasping at straws, trying to be positive, but I'm going to take it. I love that they're sitting down. But Chris, there are still a lot of issues on the table. There seems to have been a little bit of compromises on both sides, but still some pretty big issues that are on the table. I counted about 7 or 8 that are still kind of problematic. About 5 or 6 of those 7 and 8, I really think the studios need to give to the writers. There's 1 or 2 that I think the writers need to give up. But I don't know, and clearly you are part of the other union, you're part of SAG, but clearly one is going to have an impact on the other here. What do you think
need
about
this one? Because I'm not writing that stuff. I need scripts.
So how do you look at, number one, just the very fact that they've announced they're getting back in the room? Is that a cause for optimism? And do you think we might be getting any closer to a resolution to this? What do you think?
Well, I am a little torn on this. It makes me, just seeing this news, hopeful. It really, really does. Because anytime we can come back to the negotiation table is a good thing, as long as there's actual negotiations. And it sounds like this time there is. One of the last times they got back together, it sounded like, hey, why aren't you accepting the deal we offered you before? Take the deal again with no changes. So we know that strategy doesn't work. We got to make some changes here. So hopefully this all works out and they actually do negotiate and they can kind of, come to terms with what works for everybody, what doesn't, what really needs to happen moving forward. That being said, I have a source who has just been hired by one of these huge companies who talked about, oh yeah, you can do all of your training right now. And then in the new year, once everything picks back up, that's when we'll have you start doing stuff. So they're working for one of the AMPTP companies. And that makes me go, oh, so are you guys planning on not having this resolved till next year?
Oh.
Now,
You know, I've had a few people calling me too, telling me we're hearing January. And I'm like,
yep.
no, like, no.
Which I got the good fortune of going to a casting workshop this week, and the casting director there was talking about how, yeah, there's going to be this really great bubble of work for all of you once we go back. And please note, too, that because of the work pipeline, all the writers will get to go back to work. And in several months, we also will have another big boon of auditions for all of you. But please don't hold your breath.
Right.
So I feel like from people who are on the casting side of things and then other people who are working for these signatories and everything, it does keep sounding like January is the more cautious, realistic date.
God, 'cause
But
that's
I
3 or
want it to
4 more
happen
months
sooner.
away.
I know. I want it to happen sooner. Actors, this is a really great time for you to just travel. Go do literally anything
A lot of actors
else.
don't have the money to travel right
Yeah.
now.
Well, you know, it's one of those things. Go visit your mom. Go visit your mom.
Yeah.
Drive home for a while. You know, take that pottery class you always wanted at the YMCA.
If
I just
you're
don't
not-
understand why this would have to take 8 months.
It makes no sense. Well, and honestly, I have to say too, you guys, it's definitely affecting how our guild is going to be negotiating another thing, because I talked to you about how I sat in on the video game strike conversation.
Right.
And a whole bunch of people in video games, and I completely understand why I feel this way too, are why are we not fighting for residuals? This is so stupid. We should be getting residuals. It is not enough for us to make, $956 per game when this is a billion-dollar industry. And our negotiating team is talking about how, yes, we agree, absolutely. But we need to come to the table with things that are actionable and will for sure get taken care of. AI is the big thing we have to eliminate. We have to take care of that. And if we're already telling them, hey, please don't duplicate our voices. Hey, please don't use robots. What do you think is going to happen when we then say, and then also we need residuals for the first time ever? You don't have to pay your duplicate. You don't have to pay these other things. So we have to fight in a way that makes sense and gets us the things we need right now that could have irreversible damage on our industry and our performers.
See, I want to know what you think about this. Now, again, I am not a member of the WGA nor the AMPTP, so I don't have a real insider look at this. Like I said, there's about 7 or 8 kind of major sticking points. The 4 I see as being, man, if these ones either got settled or either the two sides just compromised on, I think we'd be getting a deal pretty quick. Those 4 are length minimums. So like when a writer is brought onto a show, they're guaranteed X number of weeks work on that show. That's clearly a very big thing to the WGA. Second, you pointed it out, AI. That's become a really big, potentially existential threat to creative work. Third, you also pointed out residuals. Fourth is minimum size of writer rooms. Now, out of those 4, I personally kind of fall even on both sides. Like, I completely side with the writers on the AI issue and on the writer minimum weeks of guaranteed work. I fall more on the studio side when it comes to writers' room sizes, because you got to have guys like Taylor Sheridan who writes by himself. He doesn't want to have to be forced to hire 4 other writers to work with him. And residuals. I know that makes me really unpopular with my friends. I don't believe in residuals, but that's
How are we going to live?
well, the same way everybody else does, job to job.
But I can't do any other work if I'm working on this other show. And sometimes there's conflicts too on things.
Oh, I know. And this is where I get in debates with my friends all the time. And again, this is coming as the opinion of somebody who has no skin in the game. I'm not affected by it. So it's very easy for me to have an opinion on it. I'm not going to pretend I don't. I guess my thing has been somebody who's worked in like the construction business before, right? Mm-hmm. If there are several, back in Hamilton, Ontario, there would be several construction jobs going on at one time. I can only work on one at a time. I can't go and work on the one on Upper Sherman if I'm working on the one on Wellington. And I get paid for my time to come and do my work. And when my work is done, They don't continue to pay me. I have to go and do another job. Nothing. It's the way every single other occupation in the world works, with limitations.
When you do somebody's taxes for them as an accountant, though, like, that's a one and done job. You don't get to then go, well, I did their taxes once, and now that they're turning in their taxes every year, I make money off of that. Like, what actors do and what writers do and what directors do continually makes money over and over and over again, but only the studio sees that money.
Or it doesn't.
Or it doesn't,
Or
sure.
it doesn't. See, and that's why...
I just want transparency on either end of it.
I agree, 100% agree on that. I just feel like I don't believe somebody should stand to gain money from something succeeding unless you stand to lose money if something failed. And I just basically, as a baseline, believe writers and actors need to be paid more. Mm-hmm. I don't think residuals... I've yet to be convinced over the last couple of years, but again, if I was working in the industry on that level, I may have a totally different perspective on it. But it's just like, often use the thing about the restaurant thing, right? Like I'll give a great example. It used to be the biggest mall in the world. I don't know if it still is or not, but the West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, at least at one point was the world's largest mall. I don't know if it is anymore. And they had a movie theater in there with this giant dragon in this, kind of overlooking the entrance to the movie theater. And every 15 minutes, it would come to life, move its giant neck. It was huge, like size of like 2 school buses. And it would move its neck around, and then every 15 minutes, it would breathe fire, and you could feel it like across the mall, the heat from this thing. It was amazing, and a lot of people would go. I know I would every once in a while go to Edmonton just so I could go to that theater to see that dragon. Somebody built that dragon, made that dragon, installed that dragon, and they got paid for their work. And they didn't get paid every time somebody like me went to go to that movie theater because I wanted to see the dragon. Well, they got paid for their work. And no other industry in the world that I can think of is the issue of residuals, that I should get paid for the work that I do, and you should continue to pay me, even though my work is done. I don't know how I feel about that, just because I've worked in a lot of industries where I get paid for the work that I do. And even though people enjoy the benefits of the work that I did for a long time, I don't continue to get paid for it. I don't know. Again, I am still open to having my mind changed on it, but that's just kind of where I am right now. But again, like 6 or 7 out of the issues that I think the writers are asking for, I think the studios are stupid for not giving to them, because quite frankly, I think they'd be good for the studios too if they just listened to the writers and gave them what they needed. Anyway, with that down, guys, we still have a couple things to talk about here, including there's a report going around, maybe even downgrade that to a rumor, that Karl Urban may be appearing in Deadpool 3 as a Deadpool variant. Also, that Star Wars Lando project, apparently it's going to be a movie. But before we get to those things, we're going to take a quick second here to thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode, our friends at MasterClass and Vessi. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. With MasterClass, you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. An annual membership starts at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. So guys, get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as a John Campea Show listener, you can get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/Campea. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off an annual membership. Masterclass.com/Campea. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Vessi. Now, like me, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Vessi, the shoe that claims to be incredibly comfortable and waterproof on top of that. Well, these claims are really interesting to me because as a Canadian who walked around in a lot of snow, and as somebody who likes to go camping and hiking with his wife on the weekends, there's nothing more uncomfortable and horrible than walking around in wet feet. So after receiving my first pair of Vessis and noticing how incredibly good looking the shoes are and how mind-boggling comfortable and flexible they are, the first thing I did was I took them into the backyard to put it to the supreme waterproof test and dipped my feet in my pool. Guys, my feet were bone dry, and like 20 seconds after having them in the pool and I touched them, the shoes themselves were also bone dry. Guys, seriously, these shoes are stupidly comfortable, they look great, and they absolutely lived up to the claim of being waterproof and keeping my feet dry. I absolutely love my Vessi shoes. So guys, if you want shoes that are good looking, are ridiculously comfortable, and on top of all that waterproof, you need to head to vessi.com/Campea and get yourselves a pair today. Go to vessi.com/Campea and get shoes for your best summer yet. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass and Vessi for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of my favorite guys in this business is Karl Urban. I have loved this guy since he was Cupid in Hercules. I think this guy is fantastic. Of course, and he's in Lord of the Rings, he's in Star Trek, he's in The Boys. Hell, he was in Thor Ragnarok. I love his character in Thor Ragnarok, by the way. I don't care what anybody says. I think he's great in it. And of course, his career-defining thing for me is his role in The Boys. He's absolutely incredible. By the way, he was a great Judge Dredd.
Such a good Dredd.
Oh, such a good Judge Dredd. And now there are rumors and reports going around that he's actually going to be in Deadpool 3. Now, that I can buy. Karl Urban, besides, I mean, Karl Urban is one of these stars where he's a star, but he's not such a big star that he's above going and doing smaller parts in other movies, right? And I kind of love it that he's like that because it means he can pop up anywhere. Like, you're not going to see Leonardo DiCaprio pop up just anywhere, but Karl Urban can pop up in some really cool things, even if it's in a small role here or there. But there's a report going around that he's going to be in Deadpool 3. What's really interesting, though, is that going along with those rumors is that he's going to play a Deadpool variant. Now, this is coming from a source online that is sometimes right. Not always right, but sometimes right. And therefore, I think it's at least worth discussing, but it needs to be discussed with a giant asterisk and that big grain of salt that saying, I have no direct knowledge about whether this report is actually true or not. So we are discussing it just as that, a report that's floating around online that I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen already. I want to talk about the possibilities, though, if it is true. Because as you guys know, for those of you who watch the show, I've had this theory that I have no basis to believe that it's real or not. This is just me, wild speculation, that the idea of Deadpool 3 is going to be that there is another dimensions versions of Deadpool who never got to go to the MCU and believed the thing that held him back from being in the MCU was the Fox X-Men. And then that Deadpool is going around and killing all the Fox Universe X-Men, and our Deadpool, who is going to the MCU, and Wolverine team up to stop this Deadpool. Again, no reason for you to believe that at all. That is just pure wild speculation on my part. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I love this idea about Karl Urban maybe being the evil iteration of Deadpool. That just got is mad that there's another Deadpool out there that got to go to the MCU, which is such an ultimate fourth wall break plot device and motivation for a villain. That Deadpool got to go to the MCU and I never did. And for Karl Urban to be that Deadpool, I would love it. Now, Chris, somebody else brought up, it might have even been you, I can't remember, that what if the evil Deadpool in this movie is the one from the Wolverine movie?
That was me.
That was you? I see that. That's a better theory than Karl Urban maybe being it. But anyway.
It can still be him.
I mean, maybe there's multiples of them, right? What do you think about, number one, the report about maybe a Karl Urban popping up in a Deadpool 3? who he could play if it was true. And then ultimately, bottom line, do you believe the rumors going around that Karl Urban would be in Deadpool 3? What do you think?
I mean, everyone's in this movie, so sure, I believe it. Everyone. I love Karl Urban. He's a tremendous actor who is just, I don't know, hit the franchise lottery. He's an all big IP. So good for you, buddy. Also, how is this guy 51? How? Look at him. He's got a baby
He looks
face
like
still.
a gruff 39.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The rest of us have city miles on us. Lord, what are you doing, Karl? I love the idea of him in this. I personally, if he is a Deadpool variant, or if he's a Wolverine variant,
Yep.
I think that's another possibility.
Well, that's one that a lot of fans would love to, because a lot of
Aussie
he's
versus
been a
New
fan
Zealand.
casting for a lot of people. That now that Hugh Jackman's not Wolverine anymore, it should be a Karl Urban.
Yeah, which again, everyone, 51. If they go for a younger Wolverine, it's not going to be our guy here, no matter how young he looks. But I think for me, it's, don't come at me, Snyder people, but I think if they do a Snyderverse kind of version of Deadpool or Wolverine, of the dark, gritty, can't deal with this kind of bullshit anymore character, especially with that gravelly voice.
Desaturated.
Yes, it's going to be all desaturated. No primary colors whatsoever. None. And I could see Karl doing that stuff. I think that would be really, really fun to just also continue the commentary, because that's what Deadpool's all about, is taking the Mickey out of comic book movies and comic book genres. So I could see it going that route personally.
Would you like to see Karl Urban in something like Deadpool, Ray? Would that be something that interests you?
I just like the idea of him being the Wolverine variant. If we're going to fight variants, who else should play a Wolverine variant? He would look so cool.
He would look
when I was
very cool as a Wolverine
When I was
variant.
looking at pics of him to put in the, thing, there's some renditions of him as Wolverine. He looks great.
He does. There's one big problem, though, with the fan casting, that's the big question now that we know who the new Superman is. We also got to find out who the new Batman is. But the next big thing is going to be, well, also who's the new Bond, is going to be who's going to be the new Wolverine after Hugh Jackman, right? Because a lot of us have grown up with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, right? He's been Wolverine for so long. Who's going to be the next person to do it? The problem with the Karl Urban pick, and I love Karl Urban. Karl's been on my panel at Comic-Con before. He's fantastic. He had me moderate the very first public screening of Dredd. I had a great time with him at that. He's wonderful, but he's not that much younger than Hugh Jackman,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, he is in his 50s, which makes him gangbusters for anything, but maybe not the beginning of a new era of a Wolverine character that, you would hope could play the character 15 years. That's not even as long as Hugh Jackman did.
I see a lot of the, if these are true, these reports, rumors, they're just a one and done, I think. It was just before this movie. Because I guess if
sure,
we're
for
dealing
just
with
this movie, I could see it. Yeah.
I'm completely down with a younger. I actually wanted Taron to be
Taron Egerton?
as the next one.
I wanted Zac Efron.
Yeah.
I actually thought Zac Efron would make it
Daniel
pretty good.
Radcliffe.
Listen, I'll tell you what.
Give me my short Wolverine.
Can you see if you can pull up that picture of just search Radcliffe ripped? Because some new first of all,
It's already saved in my,
Thanks. Go through your
it's already
history.
in my thing.
It's my wallpaper.
oddly enough.
I remember watching him in the Weird Al movie. And the first scene of him in the Weird Al movie when he's like doing coke with his shirt off, it's like, yeah, these are new pictures of Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, but he's even more.
Oh, he's getting ready.
Yeah.
I mean, little Harry Potter, like Voldemort's like, fucking, I don't want none of that. Like, it's like Voldemort's like running in the other direction.
Not coming for guns akimbo.
Like, and by the way, that's this is part of the reason why I like the idea of Zac Efron too. Zac Efron's a great actor.
He absorbed Ron, I think.
He absorbed Ron.
It's Ron and Harry put together. That's what you get.
But I mean, Daniel has turned into I thought he looked great in the Weird Al movie. He looks twice as good now. By the way, loved him in, what was the Channing Tatum comedy he just did with Speed Girl?
Was Sandra Bullock
Lost City?
Lost City.
Was that what it's called?
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe as the bad guy in Lost City was gold. I really liked him in
That
that.
caught me by surprise. I didn't know he was in it when I started watching it. I was like, oh crap, he's the bad guy?
Oh, and I'll tell you
great.
what, if they had put Weird, the Al Yankovic story, in theaters, I'm not joking. I think Daniel Radcliffe could have been in the running for some major awards. I thought he was so, granted, it was comedic, so it would make it hard, but he was so good in it. You know what? I'm on board. I love the idea. Daniel Radcliffe is the new Wolverine. Sign me up.
I think it'd be amazing.
I love it. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, the Star Wars Solo movie was, let's say it, an interesting time, right? It's a movie that never should have been made in the first place. But they did. It did not do well financially. It was the first Star Wars movie to lose money. Had a lot of drama surrounding it. They brought on Lord and Miller. And I love Lord and Miller. I'm a huge geek boy for those guys. But the reality is they kind of messed it up. They agreed to make one movie and they started to make another one, and eventually Lucasfilm let them go. They brought in Ron Howard, who I think did a very, very good job. And ultimately, I thought Star Wars Solo was a really good little movie. It was really good. I liked it. Not super fantastic, but I liked it. It was a good space adventure movie. But it never should have been made in the first place, and it lost money. I mean, that's it. Bottom line. A lot of people have been wondering about, could there ever be a sequel to it? Could there be a spinoff with other characters? And then we heard at that famous Disney Investors Day live stream that they did when they announced things like the Fantastic Four and everything, they announced that there was going to be a Lando series. Justin Simons, who used to be a publicist for Paramount, so I used to work with him a little bit years ago, went on to write Dear White People and has had a lot of success. Justin Simons was put in charge of writing a series. And then we found a little while ago that he wasn't writing the series anymore, but rather Donald Glover and his brother were coming on to write the series. Childish Gambino himself, the guy who plays Lando now, by the way, did a very good job, you know, embracing the spirit of Billy D. Williams and putting his own kind of flair on it. Did a great job playing a younger Lando. He's now writing the show. Well, not anymore, because apparently it's not a show. According to Variety, this is going to be a feature film. This comes to us from Variety, who wrote, news broke in July that Donald and Stephen Glover had been tapped by Disney and Lucasfilm to replace Justin Simien as the writers of the new Lando television series on Disney+. But not so fast. The project is actually being developed as a Lando movie, Lucasfilm confirmed to Variety. Glover debuted as a young Lando Calrissian in 2017 Star Wars tentpole Solo, which was a notable box office disappointment for Disney and Lucasfilm. By the way, Glover himself has gone on to kind of indicate that, yes, this is going to be a movie, a feature-length movie. All right, I have two thoughts on this. My first thought is I always prefer a movie over a series. I just generally do. And so, because you get more resources poured into it, you get bigger bang for your buck per minute of screen time than you do for a television series. I love the idea of doing it as a movie. And I liked Solo, right? Even though I don't think the movie should have ever been made, I ended up liking it. And I loved him as Lando. So on the one hand, the fan side of me is like, sign me up. The other side of my brain, which tends to be the more pragmatic side, is, what the hell are you thinking? Nobody went to go see Solo. Why do you think for a second anybody's going to go see a Lando origin movie, a young Lando movie? Donald Glover was great, yes, and I expect that he will be nothing short of great in this movie. I'm sure, listen, he's an Emmy award-winning writer. He's a terrific performer.
He's an award-winning director.
He's going to be great. I have no doubt Donald Glover's going to be great in this. I don't even have a lot of doubt that it's going to overall be quite good. But Solo was good. And Donald Glover was in that. And nobody went to go see it. I think people are over, let's do the young version of this Star Wars character movie. I don't even think a lot of Star Wars fans are interested in it. So while I will be there day one to go see this movie, because I think Donald Glover's going to do a great job with it, him and his brother, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people in line with me when I go to see it. So, I mean, I was a little apprehensive about it as its chances for success as a Disney Plus show. I'm certainly apprehensive about its possibilities of being a hit as a movie, even though, as a fan, I'd love to see it. I don't know, Chris, you see this. First of all, I love the idea of it being a movie.
Yeah.
I would just never greenlight this, even though I'd love to see it as a fan. How do you feel?
I mean, I'm one of the people who thought Solo was fun. I know other people didn't go and turn out for it, but I think that Donald Glover has only gained power.
Yeah.
He's over 9,000 now. And I think people would come out to see a Lando film potentially because of how I think everyone agreed that he was such a wonderful Lando.
He was
no
really
matter
good
what
in
your
it.
criticism of what the movie was, I think most people really enjoyed him in the film. So I do think that there is some rhyme and reason to doing this. And also with Disney's track record of doing series that don't always stick the landing, I feel like movie is probably better because we'll get a more tight story, basically. That being said, we already have, and I say this as somebody who wants Star Wars to be on the big screen. That's always my biggest complaint is, why are they series? Why am I not seeing this on a huge screen in a movie theater? There's 5 movies supposedly in the works already, right? We've got the Daisy Ridley one.
Supposedly being the key word.
Supposedly is big here, right? Because so far, the movies that have been announced, they really don't have anything coming with them. So there's the Daisy Ridley one. There's the Dave Filoni one. There's a James Mangold one. There is a Sean Levy one.
There's this Donald Glover
There's
one.
this one now too. I don't want them to take on too much, and that's been so much of, I think, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars. Their problem has been it's been so much quantity over quality, and that's what I want. If I get less movies, that's fine, as long as the movies I get are outstanding. I want them to be great. I love Star Wars. Same with my Marvel movies. I love Marvel. I want those movies to be great. I want to walk into an Ant-Man film and go, hell yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing that I want to see in a movie theater. Taste aside, right? Because things are still subjective, but I want them to just be executed well and not rushed and not done with weird stories that don't need to be told or that are fan servicey for the sake of fan servicey or just not well written. And I feel like that's the problem we keep running into is, hey, here's this really great idea. We don't really know how to execute it, but we're going to either rush it or scrap it. And I don't like those two options. I'd rather you scrap it than rush it, frankly. But I do want them to just get a bit more focused. And if changing this from a series to a film helps with that focus, I'm for it. But the entirety of the slate makes me really nervous.
Yeah, because on top of all those ones you mentioned, let's not forget they also had the
Skeleton Crew?
that's a series.
Yeah.
And that is coming out. There was, and we talked about this the other day, they had the Taika Waititi movie that they announced. That ain't ever going to happen. They had the Rogue Squadron, the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie that they even made this big production out of, putting a life-size X-Wing on a runway and blah, blah, blah. That movie's not happening. So yeah, they can say, and by the way, you know what? Hot take here. I don't think this Rey movie's going to happen either. I really don't. I think once a new head of Lucasfilm comes in, I think they're going to look at that and say, who greenlit this? Like, I just don't, like, kind of the epitome, the embodiment of the divisiveness in the Star Wars fandom around. Again, it's not Daisy Ridley's fault. Daisy Ridley's fantastic. I love Daisy. But I don't think that movie's going to happen. I got a feeling the James Mangold movie isn't going to happen. I think the Dave Filoni one will happen. But I don't know. It's good. And I have my doubts that this Lando one's going to happen.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, that's the state that Lucasfilm is in right now. They can announce all these things, and now and I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of us are looking at all these projects and say, yeah, talk to me when there's a trailer, maybe, because I just don't know that I believe this is happening.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Anyway, guys, with all that down, we're going to take our remaining time here now and take questions and topics from our YouTube channel members. But before we get to those, we're going to take another quick moment here and thank 2 more sponsors of today's episode, our friends at DraftKings and Mint Mobile. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this episode, DraftKings. Football is back and in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on all the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the code Campea to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code Campea. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea.
Pretty sure that got caught.
And thank you to our friends at DraftKings and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with all that down, let's get over to our beloved YouTube channel members here and hear the questions and topics they want to talk about. Chris, what do we got up here first?
Starting with Red One Real Talk. Happy Friday. I have to ask Campea crew, do you have the fountain of youth in your studio? You all are glowing.
Oh, thank you.
The first time I tuned in, I could have sworn you were all in most in your late 30s, and I thought Chris was still 27 like myself. Oh, you sweet little angel. Keep showering us with your beautiful majesty, folks. Aw, we don't have city miles on us.
Aw.
Hooray!
Thank you so much. That's awfully nice of you.
That's very, very sweet.
The camera's not on me long enough for you to notice.
No, you're so baby-faced, Ray. Oh my gosh. I think you and I look like we're the same age. You look mid-30s.
Rob
Let's
joked,
move on.
Rob joked with me once a while ago. He said, I know the real reason why you have me come on the show. I'm like, why? He goes, so you can look young by comparison.
I love when he does his young, old, young, old. It's my favorite.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
thank you for the kind words, my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
From Matt, going to see A Haunting in Venice today. You guys looking forward to it? I think the trailers just look okay, but hoping it's a nice surprise.
You know, Anne has to go out to into LA today. She's got 2 appointments, and I mean both with friends, but there's like a bunch of hours in between. So she's thinking about going to go see that today. You saw it last night,
Oh, I
right?
saw it last night.
Okay, so before you answer this,
How does it end?
I love Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
But I was so on Orient Express, and I didn't like Death on the Nile.
Same.
How is Venice?
This, to me, is the best of the 3.
Oh,
Oh, that's great to hear.
It's because it's such a different story, too. It's based on Agatha Christie's Halloween story. So it's got more, supernatural stuff kind of mixed into the murder mystery of it all. That being said, the people who I saw it with enjoyed it more than I did.
Oh, so there are other people that you like even more.
Yeah.
Okay.
My 2 friends really enjoyed it. Logan loved it. But I also leaned over at one point and was like, And he was like, oh yeah, that's definitely the killer. And I was like, great, cool. Glad we both know that.
That's definitely the killer. All right, what's next?
From Brecky Splats. Hey, John and crew. I hope y'all are having a good day. I was just wondering the first movie that comes to mind when hearing the word atmosphere. For me, it's John Carpenter's original Halloween movie.
atmosphere.
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Off the top of my head, I mean, there's so many. There's no wrong answer. But off the top of my head, I could say, whether you like it or not, Blade Runner. And
Oh, I'm not even a fan of that movie, but you're right. That movie's like 70% atmosphere.
and 2049, then like the remake, and even Dune.
Yeah.
So
Another movie I didn't really like all that much, but did great with the way it used atmosphere was Cloverfield.
Oh,
The first Cloverfield movie, like,
yeah.
really good use of atmosphere. Another one, you wouldn't think about this one, but the M. Night movie, The one where the aliens show up. Signs did a
Yeah.
really good job of leveraging atmosphere and stuff like that too. So those are a couple of good ones.
And the Batman. Oh,
and of course Matt
Of
Reeves
course,
is
the
back.
Batman.
What's next?
From Yosef Vargas. Any chance Chris Carr watches The Descent for Halloween season? In your dreams, bud.
In your dreams, bud.
Yeah,
in your dreams,
my
bud.
my big dream was to get Aaron Cummings and Chris Carr, both of which do not do well with horror movies, and have them sit down and watch The Descent and film it for you, our fans. Aaron and Chris hate you, apparently, and want to deprive you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
Of
I made that a bunch
We even
of
offered them $1 million.
Glorious experience. You know, one of my favorite reaction things, though, that we've done was when had Aaron sit down and watch the scene from The Boys.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite videos that we've ever done.
I love that one.
I thought that one was great.
When you said it's because they hate you, I'm like, every incel's excuse. They're not doing what
Yeah.
you want them to do because they hate you.
because they hate you. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
I read the Wikipedia.
There
About
you
The
go.
Descent?
Yeah.
Oh, you were preparing.
You got to see it, though. It's
I-
some
again,
homework.
That was my cheat if I had to do it. I was like, I'm going to watch the Wikipedia so I know when
talk
to look
about
away.
atmosphere. The Descent. The Descent is all atmosphere.
Nah. My horror friends have been like, hey, there's a lot of movies that I think you can handle. That's not one of them.
Yeah.
And
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
okay for you to watch that. I was like, all right, cool. Thank you so much.
All right, what's next?
From Amin. Did any of you watch the new Spider-Man 2 gameplay and showcase? Man, the game looks so good. First one was amazing. Crazy how it looks like they're going to be topping it. Could be one of the best superhero games of all time, and maybe even one of the best games ever.
You know, I was going through my YouTube, scrolling through YouTube, and I saw there was the State of Play, the PS5 State of Play. I didn't know if that was a legit thing or not, so I didn't click
No,
on
they
it.
do that, I think, every month or every couple months. It's
Okay.
it's a
Is that
good
what
thing
they were
Tony
showing
does.
off, the new Spider-Man
Yeah,
footage?
I was watching it before you guys got in today. So I was watching it. I had it on the background. It looks great. I mean, if someone bought a PlayStation 5 just for that game, that makes sense to me. That's how good it looks. That makes sense. Like, to buy a console for one game. Spider-Man's one of those games where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I completely understand why. You know what I mean? It's only on the PlayStation.
There were people, I know people who had Xboxes, and they specifically bought a PS5 so they could play Spider-Man.
Sony does really well on their exclusives. It's something that they can't be touched with.
You know when I gave up on the game? Did you play it?
No, I haven't played any of them because
First Spider-Man
I
game?
wanna,
Yeah.
It's my
Okay.
favorite Spider-Man
Okay.
movie.
It's fantastic, right? I
beautiful.
watched the cutscene movie, but I got the game. It's on my PS5. This is my frustration. You know, I'm terrible. I don't have a lot of patience with video games.
What?
Yeah.
Huh.
And
Unless
I have
it
even
starts
less
with
patience when
boulders.
I'm trying to use a controller because I'm a keyboard mouse guy. And you know, in the very kind of almost still the tutorial stages of the game,
That's where I dropped out.
you go to the building where Kingpin is held up. You get in the ground floor, you work your way up, and then you get to the Kingpin level, and then you're fighting Kingpin. This is all in like the first act, right? In the first like 2 hours of the game, hour and a half of the game.
Sounds amazing.
Kingpin killed me twice, and I'm like, done.
Kill me twice.
Yeah. It's
Kill
like,
me
nope, I'm
twice,
frustrated now.
permadead.
Gave up.
Kill me twice.
Done.
I could see how that
Shame on me.
someone could feel that way, especially if it's just a tutorial. And then I would get frustrated too if they made it that hard for me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
My only issue was it just felt very button mashy.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
just like
Oh.
bad
But
guy,
a lot-
bad guy,
in
bad guy,
fairness,
bad
a lot
guy,
of games
bad
do.
guy, bad guy,
Yeah.
bad guy, bad guy,
I
bad
can
guy.
I think
handle
your
that.
problems with the sticks, right, John? With
My panic sets in.
Yeah.
controlling your view with the sticks. That's everyone's problem. I still have problems with that. I'm never good
It's
at
my
it.
big thing. Like, cause I'm so used to like playing like a first person shooter. I move, I control my direction and where I'm looking with the mouse, like all one
Yeah.
movement, right? I have never been able to wire my brain. For everybody else, it's super simple. I've never been able to wire my brain that I'm moving my character with one stick and looking around with a different stick. It's like I'm just not used to this, and
My-
I
My
can't
problem
adjust.
is I'm super like articulate with my left thumb, but my right one is fidgety. I need them to reverse.
You got that fidgety thumb.
I need
Yep.
them to reverse because the
Classic
aim needs to
fidgety
be
thumb.
more
There's a
precise.
surgery for
Right.
that.
And then the left could be, all over the place. But you know what? Who cares?
All right, what's next?
From Alan Sivkamaran. Happy Friday, Campea crew. This weekend, the Dark Knight trilogy is showing at my Cinemark.
Nice.
I was thinking about watching The Dark Knight Rises again. I liked the movie, but I felt like it didn't quite stick the landing for me. What are your thoughts on it? Have a great weekend.
I think The Dark Knight Rises is a good movie.
Me too.
And maybe Christopher Nolan's worst.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good Christopher Nolan is. Is that even the movie that I think might be his worst, you know what? No, I take that back. I think it's better than Tenet. I think it's better than Tenet. But I don't love The Dark Knight Rises. I think it's easily the weakest of the three Batman movies. But it's even still, it's a good movie. It just doesn't kind of stand up to, you know, when I do a Batman rewatch, admittedly, I just watch Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Those are the ones. I just watch those two. That's it. I don't actually rewatch The Dark Knight Rises again.
You don't like the song that they play when he's getting out of that pit? The chanting? The soundtracks have been good for all of them, I think.
Song is fine. Yeah. Just I have some issues with the movie. Yeah. But still, it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie. It just doesn't live up to that glorious standard that the first two did, in my opinion. All right, what's next?
From Kayak, is the term video game curse still accurate? I'd say it's not if you think about it. We got The Last of Us, which is one of the best shows in recent years.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers is the second highest grossing film of the year. Arcane and Cyberpunk, Edge Runners killed it in the world of animation, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Both Sonic movies and Detective Pikachu were enjoyable. I conclude that video game adaptations are on a pretty good run right now. Do you agree?
They have a better track.
I would put it this way. I am not ready to declare the video game curse over. Has it been better in recent years? Yes. Particular highlights. Last of Us, Arcane, and maybe not up there with them, but I quite enjoyed the Sonic movies. But when you are now, let's generously say when your record is 5-60, you don't get to say the curse is gone yet. But for every one Sonic movie, there's 14 Assassin's Creeds. So I'll say they're definitely on a better streak right now, but I'm not ready to call the curse over yet.
I never asked you guys, did you guys like the Vikander Tomb Raider?
I did.
I did too. I did too.
I didn't love it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I also really like the fact that the guy from The Wire, the main guy from The Wire, was her dad in it. And I love how it ended with her getting the guns. And it's like, and I really wanted them to do a sequel.
Wasn't the villain the guy from The Principals with Gamby? Remember? Hey, Gamby.
Wait a minute. I thought, it was the guy from he's both in Sons of Anarchy, and he was also in Justified. He was like the second main guy in Justified. What's his name again? Why am I
look it up while you guys.
Please, I've got his face right in front of me right now, and I can't remember his name. Yeah, Ray, you keep looking that up. All right, what's next?
From Pro Wrestling Eve. Hi, everyone. March is looking pretty packed for movies being released. Do you see any moving? And if so, who do you think would be best suited to move? Thanks so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
It's a great question. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. So next time you ask a question like that, do me a favor and include the movies in mind, just so we don't have to spend a few minutes looking them up. So I don't know them off the top of my head, unfortunately.
It's Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins. Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember because it's a name that a lot of people and myself sometimes mispronounce as another name, because sometimes we'll say Walter Goggins, but it's Walton Goggins. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
From Dildar. I really liked episode 5 of Ahsoka. It's a shame you hated it, John. And don't want to finish it anymore. I have to ask, though, was it because of the whales? The thing in Star Wars you love so much? LOL.
I'm not talking about Ahsoka. And I'll tell you why. There's two reasons why I'm not talking about Ahsoka. One is, as I explained yesterday, I like to be somebody that comes on our show and celebrates the things we like. And if there's something we don't like, I like to say I don't like it, say why I didn't like it, and then move on. And I've kind of given my opinion on Ahsoka a lot over the last month. And there's no need for me to yuck on other people's yum. You know, nothing frustrates me more than seeing podcasts or blogs or whatever out there that are just out there to try to trash something and ruin other people's enjoyment of something. And, you know, if there's something that I've pretty much established that I'm not enjoying it, I don't want to become a stumbling block for other people who are enjoying it. I don't want to be the one to come in here and throw a wet blanket on it. Like, I already said what I thought about it. Good. Moving on. The second thing is, I get really frustrated, and I think a lot of movie fans feel this way, that if you don't share somebody's opinion, they decide that instead of just going, oh, you felt that way. Like when somebody comes to me and says, I don't like the original Star Wars movies. I go, oh, that sucks. Like, I really love it. I wish you
Then you
did
turn
too.
around and leave.
But you don't. Okay.
Yes, we
I
wanna be
mean,
friends.
hey, not everything is for everybody. No problem. It really frustrates me when, you mention, you know what, I didn't like this and I didn't like this and like this. There, I said it. And then instead of just going, oh, that's too bad because I really thought it did this. No, those are great. But it's when like people decide to personally attack you because you didn't like something they liked.
They try to find reasons of why.
Yeah, and then they try to like discount your reasons, even though they're perfectly legitimate reasons. But no, and they specifically want to attack you for the fact that you didn't like something that they liked. So for me, it's like, look, I don't want to throw a wet blanket on other people's enjoyment or become a hurdle to other people's enjoyment of something if they're enjoying it. And the other thing is, you know what? I already gave my overall thoughts, the good and the bad about where Ahsoka's at. And there's just certain people I don't want to deal with, like by just going on all the time and saying, well, here's why I don't like it, and just not to have a good discourse about it. But, it's just, so it is what it is.
What's sad is even when you like something, then I start looking comments. It's like, oh, he's a shill for this thing.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like,
If you like
they
something,
find ways
if
to
you
just-
like something, you're a shill. If you don't like something,
can't win.
you're an irrational hater.
Can't
So it's
win.
like, but it's part of the reality of the online world that that more rational people and rational fans need to try to change. So, and hopefully we will.
One of my best interactions, honestly, with a fan of the show once was one of the bouncers for the Player One bar. Went, hey, Chris, I think you're wrong about the Joker. Like, I think you just have a few things that just maybe don't add up. And if you want to later, we can talk about it while you're here. And it was such a great way to
That's a
approach
perfectly
it.
rational, good discourse to have.
Oh, dude. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like it for a multitude of
Did you
reasons.
pepper spray
but
him?
I didn't. I was like, Joe, let's talk.
How dare you?
We have video of
Just
Chris
pull my
just
bear
pepper
mace
sprays him.
out.
No wonder
Oh,
you
man.
said that.
I used to carry bear mace, and then one of my friends accidentally got sprayed. And he went, "That wouldn't stop anybody, just so you know." And I was like, "Whoa!" And
All right.
here's
He's
how I
like,
felt.
I've tried.
What's next?
That bear energy.
From King Daddy Goat. Hey guys, hope you all are having a great day. Someone mentioned a sequel for Brightburn was coming. I've seen it today that the script will be tasked by none other than AI.
That's not true, by the way.
Is this film destined to fail, or is it a cash grab off the idea of it being artificially created? What are your thoughts? Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
To be clear, I did read these. First, I don't understand why they're making a Brightburn movie. The first one wasn't all that good, and it only made $37 million. Now, granted, it was a very inexpensive movie to make, but still, it only made $37 million. Nowhere does it say that the script is being written by AI. What is said in the Deadline article is that several tools are going to be used and help in the development and making the movie, including metaverse, including AI. But I mean, they never say that the script is going to be written by AI. That is not actually reported. That's not actually a part of it. And quite frankly, I don't think I can see James Gunn's brothers wanting to use AI to write a script. So again, who knows? Maybe that is what they're planning on doing, but I just want to make it clear if you see people posting about it on social media, correct them, give them a link to the Deadline article, and mention that nowhere in the article does it actually say the script is being written by AI any more than it's saying the script is being written by Metaverse or the script is being written by whatever. They said they're going to use those tools to make this movie, but in what capacity? Don't know. Are they going to use AI to create background images? Are they going to use AI to do name generation? We just don't know what they mean. But for now, it does not say that the script is going to be written by AI, just to be clear about that. Okay, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth. Chris, hi. I'm wondering if you tell your students about the voice acting method that actors like Justin Long and Anna Faris used in the Chipmunks movies, where you do your lines real slow and then it gets sped up. No. So because that's not a technique, that's a trick. What I teach people to do is how to augment their actual voices, because you should never present a voice that's been augmented digitally, because that's not your job. Your job is to showcase how you can change and manipulate your voice. So we talk about where you can place things in your face, throat, and chest, so that you can create a different sound and something that's sustainable. And by that, I mean how you can bring something to actually use in a booth for a full 2-hour session and not screw up your voice.
All right, good points. All right, what's next?
From Jai CSC, cross the newsroom off the watch list. It's unusual. There are scenes and moments that feel like they're from a completely different show, followed by some that are magnificently written and insightful. Well worth it for those.
The Newsroom was actually a really good, exceptional show.
Was that
it's
Jeff Daniels or which
Yes.
one? Okay.
Yep, the one with Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, that was-
It's got one of the best openings of a show ever. It's the show about, I think the title of the clip is America is not the greatest country in the world anymore, but we sure used to be. I think that was it. It's actually a brilliant sort of thing. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of a neat take on it. So Jeff Daniels in it, he's a newscaster. He's supposed to be a national famous news anchor who is a conservative, but he's not hyper conservative.
He's more of like a libertarian.
Yeah.
when it
Oh, I
comes
mean,
down
like
to it. Yeah.
he is a lifelong Republican who doesn't believe in the extreme right wing of what the Republican Party was becoming. I mean, this is in the show, and they tackle a lot of really neat questions. And it's, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's also written by
Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin. I believe he wrote that as well.
Yep.
Dev Patel was in it. Olivia Munn, who's surprisingly good in it.
She's great
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that show.
she's quite good in that show. It's a really quite a
David
good,
Harbour's in
interesting
it?
show.
Oh, it's
Who's in it?
HBO.
David Harbour.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. It's a good show. Check it out if you get a chance. But it never really had huge ratings. It never really had a huge audience, but it was actually quite good. All right, two more. What's next?
From Dakota Moon, what do you guys think of Treasure Planet? Personally, it's my favorite Disney movie of all time, and it introduced me to my favorite band of all time, the Goo Goo Dolls.
You know, not long ago, somebody asked almost the exact same question. They asked, you know, what do you think about Treasure Planet? I don't know if it was the same person or not. Not actually, honestly, my favorite film that I don't often go back to watch it again. I don't think I've watched it in quite a long time, to be honest with you. But
Martin
that's just
Short's
me.
in
What
it.
about you?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah,
Martin
Martin
Short.
Short, Joseph
Yeah.
Gordon-Levitt.
I didn't see it until the pandemic. I didn't see it till I got Disney Plus.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it. There's only one Treasure Island for anyone, though, and that is Muppet Treasure Island. That is the best
Oh
one.
my god.
All right. Last question of the day. What is it?
All right, from Marl J. Hova. Hi, Campea crew. John, I know you've discussed before, but what direction do you think the Star Wars franchise needs to make to avoid the current DCU stigma? Because it's heading there fast, in my opinion. Bring on the filthy.
Direction is irrelevant. Direction is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is, are you making good movies? See, we talk about this a lot. A lot of us movie fans, we often think that answers lie in formulas, and they don't. You know, the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie did not succeed because they didn't do origin movies of the individual characters first. It succeeded because they made a good movie. And that's it. But we always look for formulas. Like when an R-rated movie does well, people go, well, there it is, formula. Make your movies R-rated and they'll have success. No, a lot of R-rated movies have had terrible financial results. It's not the formula. And I know it's frustrating to say because it sounds overly simplistic, yet it's incredibly difficult. The key is just making good movies. That's it. If you make consistently great movies, that solves all your problems. Winning cures everything. And, you know, when you have like divisive movies like The Last Jedi, a movie that I don't mind, by the way. There's certain things in it I hate, certain things in it I really like. It's a whatever, but it's a very, very divisive film. And then you go on from there and you make something like The Rise of Skywalker, you're going to have problems. None of it was the formula. It's not because they had the First Order as the villains. That's not the problem. They could have written the villains great and had them be the First Order and all that kind of stuff. It's not because they had Luke Skywalker in it. No, you could have had Luke Skywalker in it and written it great. It's not formula. The only thing is each and every movie has to be made with care, detail. You give rich characters, engaging dialogue, good stories that have emotional heft to it. If you can do all that kind of stuff, and you do all those things right, those things about just making good stories and making good movies, if you do that, you're going to be fine. Iron Man worked because it was a good movie. You know, Captain America, The Winter Soldier worked because it's a good movie. And there are others that didn't because they're not. Morbius didn't work because it's not a good movie. You know? And then once you get, like, if you're DC and you get into the habit of putting out mediocre stuff that a lot of the audience doesn't like or appreciate, the problem is you do that long enough that even when you do put out a couple of things that are pretty darn good, like Blue Beetle, whatever, they won't do well because the audience has abandoned you. That's why I always talk about when James Gunn launches the new DCEU, it really doesn't matter that the first Superman movie isn't going to be a huge blockbuster. The important thing is, as they're starting a new cinematic universe, is to start off with something excellent, because that will benefit your next 3 movies if you start off with excellence, right? So it doesn't matter what direction they go in. Like, would I like to see Old Republic? Yes. Would I like to see them move the story up 50 years now later on in the galaxy far, far away? Yes. Would I like to see them maybe tell stories in a completely different area of the universe? Sure. But none of those are required to make a good movie, and doing any of those does not guarantee a good movie. It's not about the formula. It's just make good movies. So that's kind of my thought on that. All right, guys. With that down, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of our YouTube channel members for sending in those topics for us to discuss. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Have a good weekend.
Jonathan Voico.
See ya.
Chris Karl, who will be back later this afternoon to do Open Mic.
See you guys there.
My name's John Campea, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.